In this video, we're going to look at how we're going to shoot the enemy spaceship. So the first thing we need to do is to get a collision between the enemy spaceship and the object missile. So what will happen there is we'll need to destroy the instance of the spaceship itself. We also need to destroy the instance of the bullet, otherwise, or the missile, the other instance in this collision, because we don't want them there. The next thing we need to do is create an explosion. Now I've made a second explosion here, so it's create an instance. Creating the instance of the object explosion, we need to have it relative because it needs to be in the same position as where the other two instances were. Otherwise, if you leave it not relative, it's going to have an explosion up into the left hand corner of the room. We also want a sound, so we need to add a sound. So let's get our audio. Well, we want to play an audio, not stop one. And we want this sound explosion too. We also want to set an alarm, because the alarm is going to count down for us and stop the explosion video. Otherwise, it's going to keep going, which would be a pain. So, our alarms are up here. There's our alarm. So we set our alarm, and let's do it alarm 1, and we'll do it for 20. Now, you need to make sure that you have attached the alarm to the appropriate incidents, and we want it to be attached to the object explosion, not the object missile, which is going to be disappearing. So make sure that that's attached to the right instance. The next thing we want to do is when no, we don't want to repeat it here. We want to just have that explode, and we do want it to regenerate, don't we? Because it's the enemy, so we want it to regenerate. So the next thing we do after this, and we just scroll up a bit, is we want to test the number of enemies, and we're going to put that into num enemy, and it'll be a temporary one. And then we need to test that to see if that num enemy is less than 3. You should be getting the idea now of how to set these. If it is, then we want to create a new instance of an object enemy. And where do we want that? Well, it's the same old story. It's random, and somewhere across the top of the room. Well, Y is 0 because Y is 0 at the very top, and we don't want it. That's where we want it to start, not further down. And finally, we need to set the vertical direction as 2. Just make sure again you've got it attached to the object enemy. That's what you're trying to get it to, not self, because self is now destroyed. Okay, hopefully that will work for us. We're shooting our... Now one little problem there we've just discovered is that our explosion is too big, so we need to go back and just fix our sprite. So that'll be sprite of explosion 2, and we need to change the size. So we want to do percentage, and I'd say about 50%. Apply. Alright, and we'll try that again. We actually had to do that another 50% reduction to get it the right size. So now it's working. The final thing we need to do is to be able to shoot our missiles. So how do we do that? Well, we go to Object Missile, we open Properties, and we're going to add an event, and it's going to be a collision with the Object Missile. What happens there is we destroy the instance of the missile, and we destroy the instance of the other one as well, which is the object missile. So the enemy missile and the object missile are both destroyed. So that now should work for us. The other thing we need to do is to, when our spaceship collides with the enemy missile, we want that to restart the game, which we've done here. Okay, so let's have a very quick look at our game and see that it's working. See that everything's been regenerated, now explosions are going right, and they're randomly coming everywhere. You can add scores to these if you wish by just adding the score option into the collisions, and then you could have a GUI up here. You can draw a GUI with your score in once you've put it into a variable. And that's how to make a scrolling shooter game.